There's been tons of hype about the return to travel. But will every type of Airbnb rebound in the same way? Will whole homes and shared accommodations be affected in the same way? Should you be increasing your prices, or maybe you should be reducing the max length of stay that you accept? What about pets? I'm no fortune teller, but stay tuned and I'll uncover what the research is saying. Welcome to another episode of Airbnb Uncovered. I'm Matt, the creator of AirbnbUncovered.com and Airbnb Superhost. On this channel, I uncover some of the best kept hosting secrets, as well as share with you everything that I've ever learned after hosting over 3,000 guests. My tips and tricks and best practices, they're all focused on helping new hosts earn more revenue, attract the best guests, and achieve Superhost status faster. So if you're new to hosting on Airbnb, this is a channel you want to subscribe to. Many of you probably heard that the Memorial Day weekend was the busiest travel weekend in the United States since before the pandemic began. Vaccines are getting into arms and guests are starting to get ready to leave the house. Finally! What does this mean for you and for your short-term rentals business? To answer that question, let's take a deep dive into what Airbnb's latest research is predicting for 2021. A couple of dominant trends are continuing over from 2020, and those are trips are still for longer durations, rural destinations, they are still popular, and even more families are traveling than last year. Interestingly though, cities are becoming popular again, but it's not what you might be expecting. And sadly, international travel doesn't seem to be back just yet either. The majority of travel is considerably closer to home, generally within a 300-mile radius. These reservations in Canada represent 61% of the bookings. In the US, it's 40% of the bookings, and Mexico, it's at 30% of the bookings. And those are all within a 300-mile radius of a guest's home. So now let's look at the rural-urban mix. If you have a cottage, a lake, a cabin, a tree house, or similar place where kids can run free, then your Airbnb business is going to be on fire this summer. According to Airbnb, the most frequently booked type of reservation this summer is from a family leaving a big city to go to a nice smaller destination. In fact, rural nights now account for 43% of bookings in Canada, 25% of bookings in Mexico, and 28% in the US, all at least double what their share was in 2019. When looking at what families want, well, they want room to sleep at least 5. They also want to bring their furry friend along, as most have brought their dog or cat with them on a recent trip. Coastal, mountain, and locations near a national park so far have been the most booked destinations according to Airbnb's data. But what if you host in the city? What's the word for you? Well, cities are seeing a resurgence too, like I mentioned, but it's not the good old days, unfortunately. See, business travel isn't back, so it's mainly guests who are looking to relocate to the city, and what they're doing is they're taking that city out for a test drive. And to this end, this is why when you look at the destinations that have the longest average length of stay, cities are at the top of this list. And this is actually a great segue for the next thing that I want to talk to you about. How the pandemic has changed the world permanently. One of the biggest outcomes from the pandemic has been for people's abilities to work remotely. This alone will change the face of travel for the next few years, if not forever. Just as we saw during the pandemic, brave remote workers are packing it all up for a few weeks to a few months to live somewhere else. They want to experience another city or another way of life, and they're doing it all the while still paying their bills by working remotely in that new location. Now, before I dive into my recommendations on how you can best take advantage of these travel trends to make the most from your Airbnb business, I want to put on my professional marketing hat that I used to wear for about 10 years and give you a few caveats or things to think about when looking at the data that I just went over. The first thing to note is that most of the trends I just described are based on reservations that are already booked in the system by guests. Inherently, as a market researcher, we can't really use this data to describe the entire travel market because it's just too small. So we can't say that just because people who have already booked on Airbnb for a month-long stay in a big city are examples of what we can expect for urban areas for the rest of the summer. Guests are still waiting until closer to the date to make their reservations, so it could very much be that organized families that like to plan, well, they're all heading to a cottage or a mountain. But it's also entirely possible that non-planning families, well, they may want some other type of vacation. Maybe they want to travel to be close to family that they haven't seen in a while, or maybe they're going to go to a big city. The past just isn't always a perfect indicator of the future, and especially when we have shortcomings in the data like we do from this research. So on to my recommendations for how you can make the most of this summer and drive even more profit from your Airbnb business. For rural hosts, increase your prices even over last year. While I'm not a fortune teller, I am pretty sure that cities will someday see their own resurgence to travel as guests remember why they used to travel to cities in the first place. And that could lead to a slowdown in rural properties in the years to come. So I think it's best to profit now. You're also going to want to do whatever you can to host a family of 4 or 5 and maybe even more as families reconnect with grandparents and cousins and the extended family. So if you've got the space but not the beds, perhaps invest in a few cots or air mattresses. Families are also looking for longer stays, which is great news because it means fewer turnovers, and to that end, I'm recommending setting your minimum night stays to at least 2 or more, and then try to balance those weekend-only reservations with the stays that are 7 or 10 days long. For my fellow urban hosts, it seems that we may be in for another pandemic-type summer. While longer stays are great for occupancy, they're generally bad for profit. Longer stays often reduces turns, which generally lowers your cost of business. It's just that it's not usually enough to offset the loss in revenue. So what can we do to position away from the competition and earn higher revenues? Well, I kind of think you have 2 options here. One is set a reasonable monthly rate and lock in a few guests over the summer and sort of have a summer away from your business. Or you can take it to the next level through personalization, uniqueness, and enhanced experience. This could all come in the form of decor, the level of service you offer, or added amenities like deals or experiences with other local businesses. Now that you've got my advice, what's your plan? Tell me in the comments below. What will you do with your Airbnb business this summer? I honestly hope that we're at the light at the end of the tunnel with this whole pandemic thing, and that we can all start earning a decent profit from our Airbnb businesses again. Now, if you took something away from this video, then please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you're not already. I post a new video every second week or so, and sometimes more often, which is why you're also going to want to click on that notification bell so that you can be alerted when I post a new video. If you're looking for more content right now, then head on over to my channel homepage and check out one of the 50 or 60 other videos I've done on Airbnb. So until next week or next time, bye for now.